And welcome back, everyone. So, with the end of the year, I'm doing a lot of the end of the year videos. I got to do my top 10 worst and best movies of the year, sobbing probably next week, because I still got to see a couple movies this week. I'm going to have my top box office videos coming out. But also, see, when I watched the Madara versus Aizen, obviously we're in season 1, we'll get to that review. I'm like, this is one I actually kind of want to talk about. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to talk about that one, why don't I just talk about all of them? So what I decided to do is why don't I just do a review of every season of Deathbattle to date? I mean, I don't really know why I haven't. I do predictions for Deathbattle every other week, so I'm like, well, why don't I do Deathbattle reviews? And I think one of the reasons is I think people assume I want to see a reaction. They don't want to just see you do a review. That's not always true, obviously. There are Deathbattle reviewers out there who do reactions, but do comprehensive reviews as well. I'm a big fan of Biff Weed, Nemesis Bloodreich. I think that's your name. I like the reviews they do. They're very honest with their opinions. And I think they do a very comprehensive analysis for what it is. And yeah, so I'm no problem. I've just never gone to the length of being like, okay, I'm going to review the episode. No, I've not really ever gone to do that. But I stopped and thought about it. I'm like, I guess if people want me to do Deathbattle reviews, I'll do Deathbattle reviews. And I think that's where, this is going to come in past the reviews of each season. Plus, I did the winners tournament, the losers tournament for all the Death Battles, guys. So, yeah. Anyway, if you guys want me to do Death Battle reviews, let me know in the comments below. But besides that, we are here to talk about Death Battle seasons that have come and gone. Now, the format I'm going to be doing this in will adjust come the later seasons. Because there are just so many seasons of Deathbattle. That's not what I meant to say. Because there are so many episodes in the first 2 seasons of Deathbattle. The first 2 seasons of Deathbattle are freaking huge. There are 25 actual episodes of Deathbattle in season 1 and about 32 of them in season 2. That's nuts. They would later basically get into a better format where it would allow them more time to do these episodes and do them a bit more properly for animation style, and B, just give a more breathing room and time and easier for us to actually do comprehensive reviews on the seasons as a whole. They shrink the seasons down to 14 and then 16 episodes, and 16 is currently the standard. So the way I'm going to look at these is basically I'm just going to go. You're not going to get a full review of any of these episodes, by the way. I will give you my thoughts on. You're still going to get my thoughts, obviously, but you're not going to get okay, let me do a 5-minute review of each one. You'll get my whatever take I have on each episode. Remember, this is just my personal opinion. If you felt differently about the episode than I did, that's totally cool. That's the cool thing about being in a fandom. We can have disagreements and still be friends. So that's fine. I'll also give an average rating for each season when it's all said and done. So just remember, it's my opinion. I'm going to be doing a average season, and I'm going to be grading season 1 differently than I do the rest of the series, because season 1 is where Deathbattle started. So I feel like you got to be a little bit more fair and a little bit kinder to season 1, based on the fact that they were getting their feet off the ground. So without further ado, let's get into it. So let's start off with Boba Fett versus Samus Aran. Samus Aran. This was the first Deathbattle ever, and I will say without any shred of sarcasm, it's not a great episode, but because it's the first episode to really try to start the series, you can tell they were trying to work the kinks out with it. They had the health bars up there. The animation was on the janky side, I'll admit. But at the same time, it was just fun to see someone try to do this. The analysis was fun. How do I get me some bird DNA? That was always fun. So I like the jokes for what it was. They're early season 1 jokes, but they were okay for what they were. Samus Aran versus Boba Fett gets a 6.5 for me. Should also note that a 5 means it's an average episode. It's not great, but it's far from terrible. There's stuff I like in it, but it's not that. It's just an okay episode. Anything below a 5 means it's a subpar episode, at least. 4 would probably mean subpar, maybe some things I liked. 3 means not a whole lot I liked, but maybe I like the animation or something. 2 and 1 means this episode's shit. That's basically what it is. Akuma versus Shang Tsung. No lie, no joke. For season 1, this is one of the top tier episodes of season 1. Its analysis is all right. Analysis isn't anything amazing. But really, it's the fight. And the fight actually felt kind of epic. You get Akuma coming in, challenging Shang Tsung, dominating the fight for the most of the time. And then Shang Tsung coming in, transforming into a new fighter, taking advantage of Akuma. And then, that epic, clash near the end. I think a very well put together episode of season 1. And unlike with Samus and later, I think with Wonder Woman, I can't remember. I think actually Wonder Woman and Rogue lost the health bars after that. But unlike with Samus and Boba Fett, the health bar actually made sense because they're video game characters, both of them. So, and both of them also have health bars in their games. So that actually made sense to me to have the health bar there. Later on, though, they'd lose it, and it was probably for the best. By the way, I had to rewatch every episode leading up to this so I could re-rank them or regrade them again and be like, okay, how have these held up? Rogue versus Wonder Woman. So yeah, I gave Akuma versus Shang Tsung an 8 out of 10. Rogue versus Wonder Woman, yeah, not very good. One of the big things that also stands out to me is how a character is portrayed and how is the fight set up. Plus the death. The death matters too. Shang Tsung and Boba Fett both had okay deaths. Rogue and Wonder Woman, yeah, Rogue kisses Wonder Woman and kills her. I mean, sure, why not? But for me, portrayal of how a character is very important because it establishes them within the fight and kind of dictates how the fight's going to go a little bit. We're going to talk more about how a character is portrayed effectively later on in later seasons, because I do think there are characters that are completely out of character and that actually affects A, the viewing, but B, the fight itself. But with Wonder Woman and Rogue, I just don't really buy most of it. And there's not much going on there where Wonder Woman is able to, Wonder Woman's beating up on Rogue, she hits Rogue's face, Rogue then steals energy, and yeah, I mean, there's really not much going on. It's just boring, honestly. Rewatching, I'm like, well, this is kind of dull. So, unfortunately, yeah, for that, I have to say, it's a pretty lackluster fight. Goomba versus Koopa, however, so 4 out of 10. Goomba versus Koopa, however, surprisingly is very entertaining. Man, like they don't. I mean, they go into the analysis fairly competently. Goombas are cowards, or Koopas are cowards. Goombas are idiots. But then you get into the whole. They have wings. They're flying through these bombs, like the missile shells, and they've gone into the volcano with the bombs. Like, and then they end up both dying. Like a little bit of a cop out. Because about them both dying. I don't really like it when it ends in a tie. If you're going to do a death battle, I feel like someone has to die at the end. Still, it was a pretty fun match. 7 out of 10 for me. Zangief versus Haggard. Or Haggard versus Zangief. This is another one where, for a season 1 fight, it's a pretty good fight. They do a good analysis, definitely. Rest in peace, that glorious mustache is a good joke. I feel like they did. I mean, most of the season 1 setups for the fight are pretty just like, okay, these two characters are standing off. What is the reason for their fight? I don't know, but they're facing off. This is kind of this too, but Zangief challenging Haggard makes sense, and the fight and the death's pretty the end result of the fight is pretty good. Like, pile driving Haggard in the street, you see the blood coming out, and yeah, pretty solid. So that's an 8 out of 10 fight for me. Another solid fight in my mind is the Battle Royale between Ninja Turtles. Granted, I do agree calling Mikey the R word. I can say I'm not calling saying retard, calling Mikey a retard. That joke did not age well at all. That joke did not. I watched it and like, I don't just I cringe at it like most people do, but I'll admit that joke was low. That was a low blow. At least they didn't call him like autistic or something. Then they would have gotten so much shit for that. But no, the actual fight was fine. It's solid. Honestly, Mikey was going to go out first, and yeah, I like how they basically confirmed like Leonardo's a leader for a reason. He's smarter, more level-headed, and he's just the better warrior of the group. So yeah, I give it a 7 out of 10. Leonardo versus Zitz, not as good. This to me is a perfect example of a 5 out of 10 fight. It's not bad. There's some fun stuff in. I like Leonardo floating in the water, like because he's a turtle, so it makes sense. He's hiding and he's a ninja, so that makes sense as well. But just didn't really. There's nothing that really clicks. Don't really care about Zitz. I never played Battletoads or watched Battletoads, so just didn't really care that much. 5 out of 10. Yoshi versus Riptar, it's a bit better of a fight. Yoshi being weird and wacky and Riptar just being like, and for a while you really do think Yoshi's just going to get his ass kicked, but then apparently Boomstick's car is there. Like that, honestly, that I found just stupid. That I found just dumb. Like what? Why? Couldn't he just land on a spike or something or get crushed? Why'd it have to be Boomstick's car? Otherwise, it's fine. It's fast paced. Honestly, it's very quick. It's a very short fight too. Most of these early fights, did not last very long. I think the longest one, honestly, was Haggard and Zangief. I think that was the longest one they had at that point. Maybe. But yeah, Felicia so that's a 6 out of 10 for me. Felicia versus tawkaka, I gotta admit, that's actually probably my favorite of the ones we've talked about so far. The animation's good. I like the fact that it's very quick and fast paced, but the characters are fun. I like the analysis on both of them, particularly tawkaka. It's the movie, like I think that was fun. The fight itself is pretty good with a solid death too. I give it an 8.5. Again, by season 1 standards. Keep that in mind. Once we get to season 2, all the standards change because they've now had a full season to be, doing this. So they smacking my lips there. Sorry. They needed to like really get their feet in there. So yeah. Spawn versus Kratos, not as good. I think there's definitely it's definitely got a lot going for it though. I would love to see this remastered in 3D because this, especially with the more lore we got for Kratos later on, thanks to the new God of Wars, and what more later than what they did with Spawn. But as it stands, it makes sense they would face off. The death made a lot of sense too, and the reasoning for why he beat Kratos made a lot of sense. And the death, while not super intense, he just holds Kratos' head there and puts a spike through it. I think that's pretty good. Again, for a season 1 fight, I think they did a good job. So 7.5 out of 10. Another fight that is middle of the road, but quite frankly, middle of the road is way more than Dig Dug versus Bomberman had any right to be. It's just better than any. Dig Dug and Bomberman is better than it had any right to be. Is what I was trying to say. They definitely do some fun stuff. Dig Dug navigating through the landscape, Bomberman just throwing bombs everywhere. And the way Dig Dug just killed him is horrific. Just speared him, nearly blew him up, and then had him killed by his own bomb. So honestly, 5 out of 10 average. Now, no joke, except for one other fight. So I take it back. 2 other matches on the list. Vegeta versus Shadow may be maybe the perfect representation of a season 1 fight at its best, except for with the 2 other exceptions. It did everything you wanted to. You got, oh God, who actually does voice? Was it Lamy who voiced him? Anyway, you got the voice from Bridge to voice Vegeta there. Great. I love their little interaction because unlike any of these other fights, this actually had a setup. This played so much into my scoring for it because setup is so important for a fight. Like, if you're just there and you're fighting, okay, sure, fine, whatever. But the fact that you actually had them exchange insults and it basically, tell me what's it like being a half pint? I was about to ask you the same thing. You just sealed your own fate. Like, that, a setup. I want that in a fight. That makes so sense. And it's completely within character. At least within Bridge Vegeta's voice acting. And Shadow, too, because Shadow's an edgy son of a bitch. And the fight's actually pretty fun. Does an ultimate life form like you feel fear? Let me show you what a true ultimate life form looks like in terms of the Super Saiyan. Great, just punches a moon. I love it. And then he just wastes Shadow afterwards, just outlast Super Shadow. I love it. It's like, sayonara. I love too, and we'll talk about that when we get to Goku versus Superman, how they do bring that back up, that this comes full circle. Like, I can kill him faster than I killed that super fast black hair glowing hedgehog. Oh man, for me, Vegeta versus Shadow is a near perfect episode. If only the animation, and honestly, the animation's not that bad either. It's just, it's kind of a fight where not much is happening on Vegeta's part. He's trying, and Shadow's just like, nope, done, nope, done, nope, done. Oh crap, yeah, dead. So that's really the only thing that hinders it. Otherwise, a 9 out of 10 fight for me. Mario versus Sonic, the original. That one isn't bad. It's not bad. In fact, I'll be honest, when we get to, what season was Sonic versus Mario, the rematch again? One sec, I'm checking that right now. Where was that? Was it season 5? Yeah, it was season 5. I'm going to tell you right now, this is the better fight between season 5's Sonic vs. Mario, like 100-year anniversary episode, and season 1. And that's saying something, because what they had here is they actually, while they didn't use a lot of their obscure power-ups, they still actually traded blows with most of their main arsenal. And we got to see them compare and contrast and how that worked. And I loved that. And then when they basically just said, yeah, it ultimately came down when it was all said and done to, hand to hand and who was going to win that fight. And ultimately we said Sonic. Now, by the way, should note, and we're going to get, actually, you know what? I'll save what I was about to say till later on in the video, because it's going to be very apt for a lot of my reviews later on in the later seasons. So yeah, Sonic versus Mario, I think, is just a fun, and it makes sense that it's like, pixelated. All these fights were basically like the bit fights at that point leading up to the season finale. So yeah, ultimately I dug it. Justin Bieber versus Rebecca Black is the worst episode they have ever done, bar none, hands down. It is a joke fight that is not funny. Now, I'm not saying it's like, bullying people. It's like, no, it's a joke fight. Calm down for anyone who's like, it's bullying. It's like, no, it's not. It's not bullying. It's just two people who aren't very well liked by a lot of the public because of their personas and some of their actions, admittedly. And just get the social justice warrior thing out of the equation right now. And just look at it as a fight. It's a waste of freaking time. It is a waste of freaking time. Like, no one cared about it. It ultimately did, and they ended up killing Miley. Like, that was such a stupid episode. It's the only 1 out of 10 I gave out of any of these. Any of these. Spoiler, no other Death Battle ever got a 1 out of 10 for me. This is the worst Death Battle. This is the only one I didn't even bother rewatching because I didn't like it. I hated it that much. I didn't watch the bonus episode, so no one cares. So, yeah, 1 out of 10. Luke Skywalker versus Harry Potter. I'll be honest. This is where their season 1 shtick kind of started to not wear on me a little bit. And what I mean by season 1 shtick is this: is that I get it. They're the chosen ones. That doesn't really make for very interesting fight, like a battle. And honestly, the fight itself is really lackluster. Like, what is it? Avada Kedavra. He's just throwing Harry's just throwing spells at him. Yeah, he can fly in his broom, but whatever. It really is just a boring fight, except for when, Luke just shatters Harry's scar. That's about it. For me, it's a 3 out of 10. It's a pretty lackluster episode. I've seen a lot better. Chun Li versus Mai Shiranui. This one also, honestly, I just didn't care. Like, I'm watching this episode again, and I'm like, I just don't care. I don't care about Chun Li. I don't care. I didn't even know who Mai was until the episode came out. So I'm like, okay, yeah, there's boob jokes. Great, boob jokes. Woo, yay. Like, don't give a crap. I will admit though, the hearing the M Bison bit where it's like, well, I killed your father. I killed my father too. You don't hear me whining about it. I do like that bit. I do believe that was in this one, if I'm not mistaken. It was in the Chun Li. Ultimately, and the death isn't even that good. It's not even a good death. There's some bits that are okay. Some of the let's quote unquote choreographies are fine. Ultimately, though, I couldn't give it anything higher than a 3. It's an average lackluster one. Starscream versus Rainbow Dash is just an oddity. Just an oddity. But it's not unentertaining. It's not entertaining. Look, it is what it is. I mean, it's a My Little Pony fighting a Transformer. I mean, for me, like, wackiness, the surrealness, the fact she eats him, basically. I mean, it's still weird and not that entertaining in the long haul. Although the animation was starting to get better at this point. I gave it a little above average. I gave it a 5.5 out of 10. Master Chief versus Doomguy. It's another just boring episode. I'm sorry for you. I apologize greatly for you Halo fans and Doom fans out there. This would probably make a really badass 3D fight. Instead, we got a really mediocre pixel fight. And yeah, and I do like the death where Doomguy's like, you see his face like, huh, and he realizes what's happening and he blows up. So, I mean, that's all well and good, but oh man, it's just a waste. It really is. Dr. Wily versus Eggman, though, is actually pretty fun. I do like, particularly the end where it's like Metal Sonic. Neither of them technically win. It's like Metal Sonic going rogue. Unfortunately, that ending, while I love it, is also one of the big problems with the episode. The fact that there is no winner. With some of it really, like with Chuck Norris versus Segata, when we eventually get to that, it is kind of par for the course and that is part of the joke. But it's still one of those things where I come to these for like a match, and you're giving me a match with no end. So that really hurt it for me, unfortunately. But 7.5 out of 10. Otherwise, it's pretty fun. Zelda versus Peach is just an oddity. And again, it kind of falls on the same level of Master Chief versus Doomguy. Unlike Master Chief versus Doomguy, though, there are a couple things that are a little weird or entertaining. The sheep being thrown in the air, her using her butt as a weapon, the kick that blew off Zelda's head. I mean, yeah, there is some fun in there, but it's kind of, the animation for me, this was one of the times where the animation was really weird, because the Zelda sprite was very juxtaposed to the Peach sprite. So I don't know, it really wasn't working for me in terms of that, and I think that was a big hindrance for me. Same score as Master Chief versus Doomguy, 4 out of 10. Then you have Thor versus Raiden. Definitely a step up in many ways. If for nothing else, the death in that is probably one of the most badass deaths we've had in Deathbattle up until that point. But also, I honestly trade solid blows together. They really dish it out for what it's worth. And the analysis, I think, is pretty solid as well. No real joke that stands out. I don't think any of the jokes really worked. But there weren't many jokes to begin with that I can remember. Ultimately, though, I think it's a solid, really good episode for season 1 by season 1 standards. I'll admit this will come back to hurt Deathbattle later on when they used more Mortal Kombat characters. It really hurts the style a bit, depending on who the Mortal Kombat character is fighting, when the sprites look so different from each other. Thor's and Raiden's is basically just taken straight out of the game, but Thor's and Raiden's together do look a little off. So it still gets an 8 out of 10 for me, but that does hurt to some degree. Zelda versus Link, the first actual CGI fight they did. The first CGI fight they did. And it's fine. It's good even. It is good. It is not as good as their rematch fight we got later on in season 7. It was season 7. No, it was season 8. Sorry. It was this season. Because it was a legacy fight where they redid it. It was nowhere near as good as that. And this is one where I'm going to say right now, and I'll talk about more when we get to the end, that the person you want to win is not always going to win. And very rarely does that affect my viewing of it. As long as they explain how the person who won, and they explain it well, it doesn't bother me that much when a character I like is killed. Cloud and Link is an example of that. Subversion. Trust me, there are a couple where I actually had problems with how the fight went down because of what they did. Because of who won and the way I feel like they understand the character that they put up against him. But I digress. Link versus Cloud is fun. I will say the running animation on Link is horrible because it's just that dashing bullshit he does. Oh god, it was so bad. And I'll also say too, rewatching it, Cloud really didn't get much time to shine. He got a hit or two in, but it was really kind of one-sided. It felt a bit like a stomp to some degree in favor of Zelda. But still, 7.5 out of 10. Batman versus Spider-Man is one of those fights, particularly from season 1, where it's pretty much a near-perfect fight. It's a near-perfect fight. I love Batman more than I love Spider-Man, but I don't disagree with the fact that in a one-on-one fight without any prep time, yeah, Batman rightfully lost. He did. And I think I did root for Batman initially, but I'm like, when they explain, it's a good point. Spider-Man physically just completely outmatches Batman in every single way. And that spider sense is hacks as F. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. They make use of, I love the whole lights going out in the fight. He tries to use the stealth, but spider sense finds him. And then the Batman's death is, it's so good. It's a great death. Absolutely. And the analysis is great. I love how they brought up the fact that Batman wants to kick Spider-Man out of the Justice League. So great. And then, yeah, so that's a straight 9 out of 10 fight. Pikachu versus Blanca, not as good as that, but it's a fun, it's less of a joke fight and more of just a novelty fight. Somewhat people because they do exactly what I do. They've been doing it longer too, where they take suggestions and they do the battle. And the more suggestions that come in, that's the one people kind of want to see. People want to see Pikachu versus Blanca. I love the fight's fun enough, but really it's the end of the fight where he just eats Pikachu and say, I wonder what Pokemon tastes like. What? They look tasty. Oh man. Yeah, it's a fun little fight. 7.5 out of 10. And we end the video on the death battle that changed Deathbattle, that put it on the map, that to this day still has the highest amount of views any death battle has ever gotten. Goku versus Superman was the game changer fight. It was the death battle that would set the precedent for all other finales and death battles in general to come before it. It was one that we also had to wait a lot longer for because it kept getting delayed. But it was first off, it's a match everyone wanted to see. Now, I fell in the Goku camp, and I still say to this day that Goku would beat Superman in the fight. At me all you want. Don't care. But as you can see, you can see how much I'm reveling this episode. This is what I mean where I say, just because the character I wanted to win didn't win, doesn't mean it's not a fantastic episode. This is a fantastic episode. This is the one all of their death battles try to aspire to be, particularly their season finales. because this sets the precedent. This is the fight that we go, oh, this is the fight everyone remembers. When you talk about death battles, people remembers. This is probably the first one, if not the second one. It's either the second or the first one people always bring up. Goku versus Superman. Goku versus Superman. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the animation, you can see why it took so long. The animation, they put everything they could into that animation. That animation looked fantastic, especially given the budget constraints they had at the time. God. I mean, look, you can actually see September 20th, 2012 versus January 10th, 2013 when it actually came out. It took them 3 months. 3 months to get that thing out. But ultimately, they were able to do it. Over 3 months, actually, they were able to do it. And what they gave us was one of the greatest death battles that we've ever had. To me, this is the poster child of a 10 out of 10 video. A 10 out of 10 death battle. Now, you may disagree. Maybe it's not a 10 out of 10 for you. For me, anyway, this is the poster child of what a 10 out of 10 video should look like. And it's also the poster child of what a true analysis should look like. Like, they really went the full mile on the analysis and on the results. Like, why Superman won. Now, don't get me wrong. And this goes towards more of my why Goku probably would beat Superman or should have won or whatever. Their numbers are kind of sus. Particularly anyone who has seen the speed calc on Goku knows for fact that their speed is sus. Like their calc is sus. They're not going to turn this into a debunked video. This is going near 10 years old now. I'm not going to debunk a 10-year-old video. But I'm not going to bring up the clip. But if you look first off, comparing Goku to Snake White Goku at a Z Goku, whatever. Okay, whatever. That's regardless. That is whatever it is. But even going by the stats they did, if you look at the stats they gave for Goku's speed, they halved Goku's speed at Super Saiyan. They didn't multiply it by 50 like they were supposed to. They halved it. I think I did the math at one point on that. Goku's speed, based on what they were comparing to Superman's speed, Goku in theory should have been like 100 times faster than Superman. So it kind of tells you that they were. I don't want to say Death Battle tried to play favorites. They were. I don't think they really were. I think based on I think it's just hard to calc characters who don't have actual calculations versus a character that does in fact have a calculation. Like Superman, we know, actually has feats that we can do for calc feats. Goku is a lot harder to do that with. So I can understand why it kind of came out that way. But still, man, at least try to be a little bit more observant. Like, that was in the video. That was in the video straight out. Like, people, you can go into that video, find that card that has Goku's speed multipliers, and you can see exactly how they effed that up. But that's the thing. I feel like they nerfed Goku. I do. I don't think they gave him his fair due, but I don't care. The episode is just freaking amazing. The fact that Goku goes through all his forms, the fact that they clash, the fact that they don't belittle Goku either. They give Goku all the chances that he can to put Superman down. And Superman, he is holding back admittedly, but that's Superman's character. That makes sense. That's what I mean when I talk about a character being in character. And Goku's just the same way. Goku's the one who starts the fight. It makes sense why he would start the fight. So, and that he would be the one to initiate the fight. It all made sense. To me, this is a perfect death battle. Now we'll have ones in later seasons where they come close. And there are other 10 death battles in my opinion. There are. There are not many of them, but there are 10 out of 10 death battles in my opinion. But nothing to date has really hit that level. Goku versus Superman has just set the bar, and no one's really been able to meet that bar since. Some have gotten near it, but no one's been able to meet it or surpass it. But ultimately, that is just my opinion. What did you think of Death Battle Season 1? Let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I plan to be releasing these throughout the end of the year, so end of the week, and going into the new year until we get to season 8. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the original season of Death Battle. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, who wants to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Hit that bell if you want to be notified. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you folks later. Have a good one.